right, guys, how many times have you had days where your underwear just doesn't fit or feel right? You know, I've had many of those days, and it's not just a personal problem, it's everyone's problem. No one likes watching you readjust. Fortunately, Tommy John has the cure. You know, Tommy John, the 21st century men's underwear brand that provides mind-blowing comfort. I know because I discovered them, and I wear them every day. Now imagine this. Super light, breathable fabrics combined with state-of-the-art design for a fit so perfect, it's almost like wearing nothing at all, and it's impossible to get a wedgie. They even have this patented horizontal quick draw fly that'll revolutionize the way you go to the bathroom. So for a truly unbelievable undergarment experience, visit TommyJohn.com and enter Alden, A-L-D-E-N, at checkout and receive 20% off your entire first order. That's A-L-D-E-N and receive 20% off your entire first order. Guys, all of their underwear is backed by their best pair you'll ever wear or its free guarantee, so you really have nothing to lose. Visit TommyJohn.com.
All right. Well, welcome to another edition of the Alden Report. My name is Michael Alden. Again, we are here in Blue Vase Studios, and I'm very, very excited for my next guest. He's a good friend of mine. He's a mentor, and I've really learned a lot of things from him. My next guest is Dean Graziosi. He's a New York Times best-selling author. He's a real estate entrepreneur. He's a pioneer in the direct response world. He's a motivational speaker. He's a coach. He's really lived an amazing life. He's done a lot of things. He grew up very, very humble, done a lot of different things, but really right now what he's doing is he's out, educating people on the things that he's done and the things that he's learned over his life and what has made him successful. We're going to talk a little bit about his latest book, Millionaire Success Habits, throughout this interview. I'm very, very excited that he took the time. Dean, thank you so much for taking your time out today.
Oh, Michael, it's good to be here. It's been a long. I've known you for a gazillion years, man. It's over 10 years, I would bet to say.
Yeah, I think,
or in that neighborhood.
I think it's probably around 10, 12 years. And like I said before we went live, and I just maybe mentioned in the intro, I mean, I've learned a lot from you and watching you throughout the years. I think at one point you said you've been on TV more than anybody for like 10 years in a row. And so I think I've texted you a couple times and just came right out and told you that I was stealing lines from you that I learned from you.
That's all right, though. That's okay.
At least I told you.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? That's better than most. So it's all good, man. So let's.
All right, cool.
So tell me your audience. Who's your audience, and how can we serve them the best?
So, for the most part, what we see is young entrepreneurs, people that are maybe just started out in the workforce that are looking to grow, or again, maybe people that are looking to break out on their own. So I think it's really more of the younger generation that
awesome.
that really haven't, been through the things that you've been through and learned the things that you've learned. And so, again, we've had, Nolan Bushnell, Kevin Harrington, we had Ryan Blair on recently, and we've had a lot of different entrepreneurs. I interviewed my barber because I tell you that the stories that he had were just awesome too, So there's just a lot of different people with a lot of different perspectives. So we have 10 questions. I ask everybody the same 10 questions. I know you have them. I'll start out with the 10 questions, and we'll just I know you have a super busy day, but we'll see.
No worries. All good. Let's do it.
First question for someone like you, again, that is really grew up in a humble beginning, grew up with nothing, and have achieved what a lot of people would consider the pinnacle of success. How do you define success, Dean?
I would say it's a great question, and I would say most of us are redefining that answer as we evolve through life. So I would say running away from being, you and I we haven't talked a lot in years, but 10 years ago we got to spend some time together, and I know a lot about your past as well. When you're coming from humble beginnings, I and this isn't my infomercial pitch, but, I literally lived in a bathroom with my dad. I was in a trailer park with my mom, watching them struggle, and money was always the topic of conversation, right? They didn't have time to coach Little League and do all those things, so they had to worry about paying the bills, right? And I think if you would have asked me in my 20s and even my 30s the definition of success, it would be having enough money to make a certain amount of money to take that pressure off. And I think that's part of the evolution. But if you ask me now what the definition of success is I think it's the ability to have control of your life. And And I see that, and I want that more now than ever before in my history. And I don't mean a control freak. I just mean the ability. We were talking real quick before we went live. I coach my son's baseball team. I coach my daughter's softball team. And so I'm there at every practice besides every game. And I take off in the middle of the day to do what I want when I want with my kids. And that freedom, that ability to make those choices drives me stronger than anything ever has. And I think if you would have asked me in my 20s, I would think that once I got to a certain place of success and income, that I would be happier. And I realize now that I tell all young entrepreneurs, put the happiness first, find out what lights you, find out what your true definition of why is first, and live that experience now, and the success will come so much faster. I think I chased success so much that I put happiness on hold for 20 years. And now I realize if I put happiness first, the success chases me.
Do you find, and I find this myself, so I think I might know the answer, but I'll ask you. I mean, growing up the way you did, I mean, again, we have similar backgrounds. You grew up poor. You grew up, like you said, you literally lived in a bathroom. You had nothing. Do you find, or did you find when you look back at it, that there was that almost internal extra drive that some people might not have had because of the fact that you were that poor kid, that you just wanted to maybe prove to everybody else that, hey, look at me now? I mean, was there something there? Because there was for me.
Of course.
There still kind of is there for me.
Yeah, that's a big motivator and a big driver. But being fortunate to meet so many other successful people, you don't have to start at the bottom to want to still rise to your best ability. And I think one of the biggest dilemmas of our modern day society is untapped potential. I think if you're listening right now and you feel like, you're smiling on the outside, you go to a party or a family party and everybody's smiling and you are too, but the inside is screaming for more, it just means that you have more gas in the tank. You have more potential and you're not reaching that potential. And I think when you don't reach that potential, it just leaves this low level of, I don't even want to call it angst. It just, there's more, but sometimes people don't know which way to go at it, go about it. Like, which direction? Where do I start? How do I find that next level? So I think, one thing I've always shared, and I'll digress here for a second, Michael, because I think this is Mike. I won't call you Michael.
Dean and I talked about when someone calls me Michael, I feel like I'm in trouble.
Yeah, it's like when my middle name is Robert. Whenever I heard Dean Robert Graziosi get in here, I'm like, damn it.
That's right. You can call me Michael. That's all right.
No, Mike. So I would suggest this for everybody listening right now, and I say this over and over because I wish someone would have said this to me. It doesn't matter what phase you're at. I started cutting firewood in high school, then I fixed wrecked cars, then I sold used cars, then I bought rundown houses, then I started flipping houses, then I got in the education business and live event business and selling books. So I've started and scaled a lot of different businesses. So I don't know if you have no business at all and you want to start it, or you have a 6-figure wanting to go to 7 or 7 to 8 or 8 to 9. I've been through all of those. And when I look back, some of it is the fundamental things that we forget that we need to know. So the one thing I encourage everybody, and this is, I kind of know your questions in advance, so I'm going to cover, and I'll go through all those with you, Michael, but everybody listening, have a crystal clear vision of where you want to go. You've heard it before, you've read it in books, but most of us don't know. Most of us are spending our lives avoiding what we don't want, and we're running into it consistently. And I'm going to tell a story here, Mike, and then let's get into the rest of your questions. But this one was so easy. I love simple stories. I'm a simple thinker. But a buddy of mine, in his church, they take a whole bunch of 17 to 20-year-old kids whitewater rafting, bunch of adults. They go up to Colorado. They get there. The rapids are the highest they've been in 10 years. They're number 5s out of 5. So everybody's nervous. All these kids are going to jump in this raft. And this guide who's been doing it for 30 years, he says, don't worry, parents, we got this. He gets with the kids. He goes, I want to tell you something. When I point, it's the positive point. When I point someplace, I want you guys to focus where I'm pointing and paddle your guts out to get there. He said, kids, I will never point at the tree that's down in the water. I'll never point at the rock that's going to flip us over. And I'll never point at the rapid that'll dunk us under. Because if I do, I've been doing this for 30 years. If I point at it and you look at it for even a second, you'll take your focus off and you'll run right into it and we'll flip over. So you guys know what this is? This is the positive point. And the definitive lesson we need to know. Everybody listening, if you want more out of life, you have to know what your positive point is and definitively be able to describe it. This is where I'm going. And what I say, that the easiest way to find it, sometimes our lives are so hectic, we got a dust cloud around us, and it's hard to set goals. I don't care what anybody says. Setting goals is tough when you're crazy busy. But the secret that I've been doing for 7 years now, and I'll share this, is pretend it's a year from now and it's the best year of your life. It's the absolute best. You wake up, you're on freaking fire, you have confidence. Your wife or your husband look at you and go, shit, he's even sexier than ever before. What's going on with his life? He looks great. It's because you're living it. If that was the best year of your life and you were waking up that much on fire, what does your life look like? And just start jotting it down. How much money you're making? What are you doing for a living? Did you start your own business? Did you scale your business? Did you get a raise? Are you working out? How do you feel? And once you write that down, that is your fuel of crafting where you want to go. Because when you know where you want to go, it's easier to say no to the things that don't serve you. When somebody says they're overwhelmed or they don't have time or there's too much complexity in life, I just say, you just don't know where you're going and you're saying yes to too much crap. Start saying no. It's like yes gets you out of Egypt, no takes you to the promised land. And you only know how to say no when you have a crystal clear vision on where you want to go. I didn't mean to go off on a rant there, Mike, but it's so important.
No. Again, folks, we're actually on with Dean Graziosi. He's a New York Times bestselling author. He's a real estate entrepreneur. He's a motivational speaker. We're talking about his latest book, Millionaire Success Habits. And the reason why I bring it up so early in our interview, Dean, is when you were telling that story about the guide, and basically, I think the moral of the story is let's not focus on the negative things and let's focus on the positive things. And when I read your book, I didn't read the whole thing, but I just wrote it down. It was really interesting what you said, and you told the story about how someone had told you to write down something you're great at, right? Or write down something you're really great at, or write something that's really interesting about you. And I thought that was a great way to kind of almost highlight really what you were talking about. Rather than focusing on the negative things about you, let's focus on the positive things about you and really work on those, right?
Yeah, the biggest lie we've ever been told is to work on our weaknesses. Screw your weaknesses. If you work on your weaknesses, it tags your confidence. You feel inferior. You focus on that, and none of us will succeed. Even if your confidence is down 2%, you can't succeed. Confidence isn't 0 to 100. It's 98 to 100. That 2 points is really your 100%. I mean, think about in life, Mike. What have you ever done when your confidence is dinged? Did you get a date when you were a kid? Did you start a business? You don't do crap when your confidence is low. And working on your weaknesses, all it does is keep you in this eternal feeling of that you're not good enough. So figure out what you're good at and just get freaking great at it, and then pay somebody to do all the stuff you suck at.
I love it. All right, so great. Question number 2, again, I know that you've done so many different things from real estate to being a mechanic to to multiple books and all these other different things in your career. It's still, I would still think it's still early in your career, right? But all the things that you've done through your career, what has been your biggest professional obstacle, and how did you overcome it?
I would say literally your thoughts. Your thinking is the biggest obstacle everybody listening will ever have, because everything is possible if you can, who said that, if you can dream it, you can create it.
Right.
And the problem, what happens is if you don't protect your confidence, if you work on your weaknesses, if you watch too much negative news and you feel insecure, the outside world robs just enough of that confidence where you doubt yourself, where you go, I want to start that business. I mean, let me ask everybody listening right now, how many times in your life did you come up with a thought, an idea, or an invention? You said, God, that invention would change the world. I'm going to do it. I'm going to create it. I'm going to get it on TV. Maybe I can get Mike to interview me on my course or my product or my invention. And then you watch the news and they say the economy's going to hell in a handbasket, and a little bit fades away. And then you tell your spouse or a friend and they say, you need money to get on TV. That's if that's somebody would have already thought about it, it probably wouldn't work. And then you think to yourself, I'm not really good at business. I don't know. And you think about your weaknesses. All of a sudden, your confidence gets dinged. You tuck it down. And then 2 years later, you see your invention, your idea, your thought on TV making someone else $1 gazillion. The only obstacle between you and the success you could have had were the thoughts and the thinking you had between. So if I would say what was my biggest obstacle is I'd run into going from a 7-figure business trying to go to a 9-figure business. And I'd think to myself, God, you're just this kid from upstate New York. You didn't go to college. You're not that smart. Do you really think you could do it? What if you're risking it all? My family says I'm a dreamer. And all those thoughts, that thinking that was put into you when you're a child or the outside world affects you, they're still there. It's the people who succeed are the ones that go, bullshit, for lack of a better word. That story's not true. I'm going to focus on my solutions. I'm going to focus on where I want to go. I'm putting my positive point on. All of it ties together. And at this phase, I probably would have answered marketing to that question, which is truly important. Marketing, if you don't overcome marketing, you can't succeed. That's a key foundation of business. Hiring the right people, that's great too. But the quickest thing that'll stop any of you listening from that next level of life is your thoughts. Be the observer of your thoughts.
Yeah, I can't express to the people listening, the people watching, really how important of what you said. And I tell this story, I think, in my first book about how I was interviewing you about one of your real estate programs, and you used the word contrarian, and I just nodded because we were live on camera. I acted like I knew what it meant, but I didn't know what it meant at the time. And you said, Mike, sometimes you have to think like a contrarian. And then I went and looked it up and realized, like you talked about how people tell you, the economy's bad, or I remember you telling the story when people were saying, oh, the real estate market's horrible and things are crashing, and you said, well, I took this as an opportunity to continue to buy more. I thought differently. It goes back to the title of one of your earlier books, Think a Little Differently, right? It's so important, and I've learned from Dean, I've learned from others, and I know that Dean has learned this from others as well. And once you can kind of figure that out, it really works, right? It just sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? Right?
What's so funny? You go full circle. It does sound too simple, but really your thinking is who you are, and I guess the greatest gift I could share with anybody is your thoughts are things. It's not who you are. And literally, I just had this conversation with my father. He's 80 years old. You met my father, Mike.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
He's 80. He's still doing amazing. He looks like he's 50. It's incredible. But he's going through something in his life right now. And I said, Dad, think about everything you shared with me. Your thoughts are things. You don't have to believe them. How many times have you had a thought and go, oh my God, what if this happens and then that happens, and you worry and stress about something that never happens? Did it actually happen, or were it your thoughts that screwed you up? It's always your thoughts. And when you have the ability to call your thoughts out and not believe them, just think about how many times your thoughts have lied to you in the last 3 days, not the last 30 years of your life, the last 3 days. And when you can figure that out and you can be the observer of those thoughts, you can throw away the ones that don't serve you and empower more of the ones that drive you towards your bigger future.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. All right, question number 3, and I think I know the answer, but I like to ask everybody anyway. Is traditional education important for business success?
What did Einstein say? Learning begins when you forget everything you were taught in school.
I don't think I can remember that, but I'll play it back later and write it down.
Yeah, I think it's an Einstein quote where he said, learning begins when you forget what you learned in school. I don't want a dog school just because I didn't go. I'd be down on it just because I'm not a part of it. I support my kids, and if they want to go to college someday, great, I'll support them. If they don't, that's great too. I just think school, even grade school, it was designed after the Industrial Revolution, right? When we found this process of, bells ringing, work separately, 1 hour for lunch. They group kids together based on production date, right? You're grouped together not on your thinking process or your ability to learn. You're grouped together because you're born in the same year. I just think it's an outdated process. Now, if I'm going to have a doctor operate on me, I want someone who went to the best school and did great, or a lawyer to defend me if I needed that. So school has amazing purposes, but I think what I told my kids, and so I guess I'll give another solution. What I told my kids is they have 2 choices when they're done. They're little. They're 10 and 9. They're 10 and 8. I said, either you figure out something you're passionate about, we find the best in the field, and you go work for them for a year and get mentored, or if you decide to go to school. But I just think if you rely too much on schooling, you're taught what to think. if you get out in the real world and have a good combo, you're taught how to think. And I just would say, if you have children or you're out of school, I would just remember the difference between what to think and how to think. When my kids come home and they're trying to memorize the answers to get a good grade, what is that? Memorization only lasts for so long. When they can put that into play and figure out why someone thought that way, how someone felt through that situation, then it sticks, and then it has more of a chance from going knowledge to wisdom rather than just memorization. So that kind of a digressed answer there, Mike, but I think it's great to have it, but get out in the real world and fail. The quickest way to success is fail as fast as you can.
No, I think it's a great answer, and and like you said, I mean, just because of the fact that you didn't necessarily go to college or whatever, it doesn't mean anything. I mean, I've talked to some people before, even on the program, that have gone to Harvard and all these other things, and they it's interesting. I love hearing people's perspectives, but there is definitely a commonality there as well. I think you're right. I think you learn. And I remember, I think I told people when I was in law school, I got to the last semester in law school, and I realized, oh my God, I don't know how to be a lawyer. I mean, they say, well, that's the law school. No, the law school did teach us some basic things, but when you graduate in the real world, when you actually have to file a lawsuit or you have to write a brief and do all these things, like no one showed you how to actually do that type of stuff. So yeah, it's the real world, I think, is where most of us have learned our stuff. Folks, again, we are on with Dean Graziosi. He's a New York Times bestselling author. He's an entrepreneur. He's a motivational speaker. He's a father. We talked about it. He's done a lot of different things throughout his life. We're talking about his latest book, Millionaire Success Habits. I've read through it a little bit. I've read all of his other books. The guy is really, not only has he done a lot of different things, but he's doing it now. He's as real as it gets. I mean, Dean and I met because we're both from the direct response world, and our world sometimes, people kind of would take shots at our world. But I've met Dean, and in fact, when Dean and I met, I was a lawyer, and I had to vet Dean. I had to make sure he was real, and this guy's as real as it gets. He's doing real things, and the things that he's doing now, and the things that he's done in the past, actually work. I've used them. I've applied them. He's a mentor of mine. So if you'd like some more information about Dean Graziosi, you can just go to deangraziosi.com. You can just find Dean also he's on Instagram. He's on Twitter. Again, his latest book, Millionaire Success Habits. I know it's on Amazon. Where else can people pick up the book?
Yeah, the easiest place to go is just deansbook.com, and we put together a special offer for your listeners so you can get the book for like a third of the price that you'd get it on iTunes, and it's awesome. So Dean's Book, that's it.
Deansbook.com. All right, great. So Dean, again, you've been in a lot of different businesses, from flipping, cars and doing to owning a very successful, and I think you still do a very successful direct response company, to being a New York Times bestselling author, to buying and selling real estate, and now I know that you're traveling around the country and mentoring entrepreneurs and other business people. So maybe let's try and focus on really what you're doing right now. What in your current business right now, what you're really kind of focusing on. What is the most effective form of marketing for you in this day and age?
Okay, so I'll give you a bigger answer than that. The delivery system of marketing will always change, right? I had an infomercial on every day for 17 years. I never missed a day, and still do some infomercial marketing. And we're crushing it on Facebook, and direct mail is working amazing again because everybody forgot about direct mail. We're doing great on Instagram. So there'll always be a new delivery system. And remember this, remember a dollar bill, right? A dollar bill and $100 bill are printed on the same paper. It's the value that's on it. And what I would suggest to anybody with marketing is add one word to marketing. You have to have marketing stamina. Think about when you want to try a marketing campaign and you try Facebook, and somebody will say to me, I tried that Facebook marketing, it doesn't work. It's like saying planes don't fly. I sold 2,000 of my books last week on Facebook. Facebook works. Direct mail works. TV still works. But if you don't have the stamina to test and tweak and live the experience of what your prospect is, it doesn't matter the delivery system. Everybody wants to chase, now Facebook is working. It's Instagram, or maybe we can use Pinterest. All of those work. It's your ability to have the stamina to find the message that resonates with the people that you want to get to raise their hand and take your offer. So I'd say three things really quick. First, in your business, provide a product or service that you love so much that you feel it's a disservice if you don't get it in people's hands. When somebody says to me they don't like selling, I say, then you don't like your product. Because salesperson? Was Martin Luther King a salesperson? Of course they were. If they didn't sell themselves and market themselves, they never would have, you wouldn't have known who they were. They would have been, a nun who helped a few people rather than someone who helped change the world. So when you love what you do so much, you better become a badass marketer and figure out how to get your message out to the world. So that's the first thing. Secondly, remember this: people buy from you, learn from you, will listen to you when they feel understood, not when they understand you. So many people want to get great at speaking and selling, and they push their message of who they are, their credentials, what they've done, how long they've been in business, and they want to tell you, and that can work to a point. But the people who escalate and break through that glass ceiling are the ones that really understand that it's all about how people feel. If you understand how people feel and let them feel understood, then they go, wow, this guy Michael, this guy Mike, this guy Dean, this guy gets me and I trust him. So first thing is have something so good that if they trust you and get your product, that you did something great for them. You provided a service to help enhance their life. Secondly, they buy from you and feel when they feel understood. And lastly is finish conversations already in the mind of your prospect. So many people want to create a product and be so excited. I created this product. Now let's figure out how to sell it. That's not how it works. You have to enter conversations in the mind of your prospect and fill a need they already had. In fact, people won't buy from you because they need it. Half of our country needs to lose weight. They don't. They have to want to lose weight. So make sure you're in providing what people want, not just what they need. So that's three things I think are really important.
I love it. I tell people all the time, Dean, when I decided to do this podcast almost 2 years ago, and I get an opportunity to interview, guys like you. I had, Russ Whitney who was on. He's funny. He talked about direct mail as well, and Kevin Harrington. I had Forbes Riley and all these other, other great marketers. And I'm writing this down feverishly, and I joke around with people. I say, I have my Juris Doctorate, and I've been in business for 10 years. But for me, and again, for those of you listening, hope you kind of get what I'm about to say, is that for me, this is like almost getting my PhD in marketing and business from being able to talk to guys like you that are doing it, that have been so successful in so many different avenues. So again, for those of you listening and watching, I hope you understand what I'm trying to say, because if you can see me right now, I'm feverishly writing notes here on this piece of paper. So the information that he's given us is just awesome. Now, you'd mentioned. Again, we, you and I know each other. I've hung out. I've been to your place out in Arizona, and you're a busy guy. You're doing a lot of different things. Like you'd mentioned, you're coaching both of your kids' teams. You're running businesses. You have employees. You have real estate, and the whole thing. Outside of all that stuff, what do you do to handle stress?
I lay on the ground and shake. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm joking.
That was me this morning.
For me. Yeah, exactly. For me, the biggest thing is my kids, because that's just the phase I'm going through. My kids are 7 and 9. I'm still Superman to them, and I want to spend every moment I can being with them before they don't want to be with me. So when I come home from a day that's busy, and my son says, let's go throw the football, that it all melts away. But I would share this, Mike. And this is for every entrepreneur out there and everybody who just even has a job. We have the ability to stop ourselves from suffering. And when you stress, you're suffering. When you worry about something not coming out the way you want to, it's suffering. And in most cases, that suffering is a success trap. I want everybody to really think about that. I spent my entire 20s waking up at probably 2 o'clock in the morning. And I could wake up at 2, be stressed out of my brain, think about all the things that were wrong, all the things that I could fix, and I'd circle through my brain and I'd just think through it and I'd write down the solutions. And most of the time I wouldn't go back to bed, but I could still outwork everybody. And I would think to myself, you know what? That's my ability. I can stay up in the middle of the night. I can solve these problems. And I went from this broke kid in a trailer park to a millionaire in my 20s. So it seemed to work, Mike. So what happened was, worse than when something fails, it's easy to stop. But when something allows you to be successful, it becomes a success trap. That was bullshit, for lack of a better word. I didn't need to stress in the middle of the night. I didn't need to suffer. I just picked up that habit. So what I would say to anyone is how to stop stressing is to realize that what got you here is not going to take you to the next level. Your best thinking got you where you are right now. In 12-step programs, I have a dear friend who's been through 12-step programs, and he said they always teach you. Your best thinking got you here, and your best thinking has you as an addict. So we need to shift your thinking. And what I can tell you guys is there is no reason you need to suffer. If you're a hard worker, if you're creative, if you have an entrepreneurial soul, if you're a go-getter, you can do all those things without suffering. And it takes practice. But just watch again. I'm going to go back to watch the thoughts you tell yourself and just ask yourself when you're going through it, is this really true right now? Is my business in jeopardy? Is my life in jeopardy? Or can I enjoy this very moment that I'm in? Because, Michael Singer, in one of my favorite books is called The Untethered Soul. And Michael Singer says, you want a reality check? He said, we are one of a billion stars in our galaxy. We're floating around one of a billion stars in our galaxy. We're on a piece of dirt going around, and we're dying. Doesn't matter if you're dying today. Whatever you're doing right now, someone died doing it. Listening to a podcast, eating a meal, sleeping, someone died doing it. And 150,000 people died today, and you're not one of them. Like when you can think about something like that, to break that pattern of stress, to break that thought and go, you know what? I'm just going to live in this moment, and I'm going to take care of that moment when it's time. I work on that every day, Mike, because when I want to be with my kids and I want to be with my family, they don't have to know that, I worked like an animal since 4:00 in the morning, got everything done, stressed, had a client, whatever goes on the day, which we all have. They don't need that. So for me, I became a better man having kids, and I really have obsessed on how to not suffer. And that's, I think stress is suffering. So I'd encourage everybody just to check your thoughts.
Well, I'm listening to you, and I'm just like, I'm looking at these next two questions. I'm going to skip over question 6, and I could even skip over question 7, but because everything you just gave was just awesome. But I want to ask it anyway. And I find that when I have someone like you who has all this information, it's sometimes these questions are really more geared for someone else. But young people in the workforce, a lot of young people are, do listen to this, are, they watch on YouTube or they listen to it on iTunes. And a lot of young people are following me on Instagram and Twitter and stuff. Young people in the workforce today, in addition to the stuff you've already given us up until this point, what advice would you give young people in the workforce today on how to grow? Like, what should they do if they're trying to really take it to the next level? Is it what you just said? Is it the thinking? Is that really what it is?
Yeah, I would say find a way, kind of going back to what I was saying before when I first started, is find a way to protect your confidence. Really dig deep. So I'm going to give you something that, again, figuring out your why or your purpose has been around forever. I'm not the inventor of how to find your purpose, but I'm a real simple thinker. And what was the most effective thing in my life? When you have a strong enough why, you will figure out what is best for you. So the advice I'd give young people is don't believe what everyone tells you. Don't have a bad relationship with money. Money's not freaking evil. If you can cut a check for a problem, you don't have a problem. If you have the ability to make more money, then damn it, go make it. Give it all away if you want. But capitalism is not bad. Capitalism is what made America great. It's why the whole world wants to be here, except for a lot of the young generation think they want to be someplace else. Go live in China for a month. You'd come back here and eat the dirt. You know what I mean?
Right.
So first off, money is not evil when it's earned ethically, and it's a byproduct of helping others. So get that out of your mind. I mean, money is one of those things that people worry about. They think they shouldn't make it. They have this terrible relationship. It's like I'll talk to so many people that feel like it's bad to make it, but the number one thing they worry about is lack of it, or they can't be their best selves because they're stressed about money all the time, right? So first of all, money earned ethically is a game changer. Help your family, help the people you love, or give it all away. Second is go back to what I said before. Get clarity on where you want to go. Pretend it's a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, and it's the best years of your life. What does that look like? And at least get a direction to point yourself. Stop focusing on what you don't want. I don't want this job. I don't want to go into the workforce. I don't. The more you say I don't, the more you run right into it. And then once you know where you want to go, and you understand you want more, then have a burning why. I mean, I'll just tell you that most of the time our why comes from our head, our thinking. I want to be financially free. I want to be rich. I don't want to work for somebody else. That's all great stuff, but there's always a deeper level why. Mike, you said it before. You don't want to be that broke kid that you want to show the world what you're made of, right? So when I really dug into my why, and yes, I want to create a great company. Yes, I want to change the world. Yes, I want to leave a legacy for my kids. But when I dug into my why, I really found out the top 3 reasons, and that's I don't want to go backwards. I hated being a broke kid. I hate the way it felt. I hate that money ruled our lives because we didn't have any of it. It's like oxygen. You don't realize you need it until it's not there. I realize I want my kids to have choices. I don't want them to be spoiled brats or entitled. I just want them to have choices. And last, you asked me what the definition of success is: control. I want to live the way I want. I want to live where I want. I want to raise my kids the way I want. I don't want to answer to anybody. That is such a burning why for me to not go backwards, to give my kids choices, and to be in control of my life. That I'll go through a brick wall, I'll go under it, around it. My worst days, when I think of that, it powers me forward. I don't want to give in. So find your why, and then point yourself in the direction you know you want to go. And remember that, yes got you here, and no will take you to the promised land.
Wow, again, this is amazing. Folks, we've been on with Dean Graziosi. If you'd like some more information about Dean and his latest book, Millionaire Success Habits, you can just go to deansbook.com. Like I had mentioned before, Dean is he's done a lot of great things with his life. He's changed people's lives. He's a New York Times bestselling author. He's written multiple books. He's overcome a lot of adversity. I mean, he tells his story in the book, and it's very, very inspiring. I don't want to give a lot of the information away, but he really grew up with the odds stacked against him, and he's done some pretty amazing things. Again, from becoming a New York Times bestselling author to creating a real estate empire. He's a great father. He's doing a lot of great things. So if you'd like some more information about Dean Graziosi and his latest book, you can just go to deansbook.com. Again, the book is titled Millionaire Success Habits. For those of you watching, here it is right here. I've read most of it. It's a great book. I've read his other books as well. And again, the other thing, folks, is I know Dean. I know him personally. I told the story earlier. As an attorney, I had to vet Dean to make sure he was real, and the guy's as real as it gets. And that's one of the things that I love about doing this podcast, because of the people that we have on are real people doing real things. And Dean had said as well, simple things. Dean, I learned in a yoga class of all places, and people bust my balls all the time to say you don't do yoga. Actually, I was just in a yoga class last week. But one of the things I learned in a yoga class, and you can steal this one from me, is that simple things work, but only if you do them. That's one of the things that I learned in a yoga class, and it's kind of just what you said as well. So, we have a couple more questions. I'm gonna ask them anyway. Efficiency. We've been going about 38 minutes. Efficiency. I find that, in this day and age with all these different things that are hitting us with the phones, with the tablets, with the computers, and email and all these other things, you yourself, you're running multiple businesses, you have employees, you're a father, you're doing all these different things. What do you do, Dean, to maintain your efficiency, to make sure you can get things done?
It kind of resorts back to knowing really where you want to go. So I have 2 answers for you. One is picture the things that you do. Here's an exercise that I do on a quarterly basis. If you don't want to do it, it's fine. It might seem like a lot of work. It might be the greatest thing you could ever do in your life. I would take the next week of your life and document everything that you do. Everything. Document you ran to Home Depot to pick something up. You got your dry cleaning. You went to your business. You went to work. You talked to your employees. You had a meeting. I would document everything. I literally do this every quarter. And then look at it and say, what things on this list should I eliminate doing? Should I delegate? Should I outsource? Or should I automate? Listen to those, right? Delegate, quit, outsource, delegate, automate. Because what is more important than your to-do list is your not to-do list. The only way to the next level of life, the only way is to get crap off your plate you shouldn't be doing. There's a million things. There's virtual assistants are incredible in today's world. Somebody says to me, I can't afford an assistant. You can't afford not to have an assistant. Think about whatever it is that you do to make the most money. I don't know, you're listening right now. You sell houses, you whatever it is you do. You sell online courses, or you work in a job. Think about what you could do to generate money if you had an extra 4 hours a week. How much more could you generate? How much more could you advance your career? Could you start your own company? Could you finally register that URL if you had 4, 5, 6, 7 hours a week? So find that time. And how you find that time is hand it off or delegate it or quit it.
I love it.
There are things, there are things that I try not to do anything that's not in my unique ability. I don't pick up my dry cleaning. I don't go to the motor vehicle. And I'm not saying that to brag, because I know I have an ROI on that. If I'm paying somebody $15 an hour to go get my dry cleaning, and in that hour I could write a new sales letter, what's my ROI on that hour? So the only way to be efficient is to make a not to-do list. And the only way to do that is really document what you do each week and start delegating, outsourcing, quitting, or automating some of those processes.
I love it. I love it. Again, Dean, so I'm going to ask you one last question. Folks,
you got it.
We've been on with Dean Graziosi. And Dean, as I was listening to you, and I've said it already a couple times throughout the podcast, I've learned a lot from Dean. I've had an opportunity to spend time with him in his offices in Phoenix. And, this guy, and when you had mentioned the sales letter just a second ago, I mean, this guy is one of the best marketers I've ever met. And his background, again, he grew up with nothing. I think you even talked about it in your book, Dean. Someone said that you might have even had a learning disability, whatever that is these days.
Yeah.
You had to overcome a lot of these things, and he's a New York Times best-selling author. He's written several books. He writes sales copy that some of the best copywriters in the world would charge tens of thousands of dollars for. He does it himself. I'm sure he probably hires some people sometimes too, but he's just an amazing marketer. He's an amazing business person. His latest book, Millionaire Success Habits, you can pick it up at deansbook.com. Again, Millionaire Success Habits, and he's got a bunch of other books out as well. I've read this one, not the whole thing. I've skimmed through it. I've read his other books as well, but this is some information in here that you can all learn from. In fact, I've learned some stuff from it in this book, and the 4 C's that are in the book,
yeah.
and you can talk about them maybe or maybe not. Maybe you can learn it when you pick up the book. Something that I learned just recently, like, man, I'm going to apply that concept to my life. So, Dean, last question I have for you. Again, you've given us such amazing information. I feel like, again, I'm getting my PhD in marketing and business and entrepreneurship just from you. If you could leave our viewers and listeners with one piece of secret business advice, maybe something that only Dean Graziosi does, that you already haven't told us, what would it be?
Marketing comes first. In any of your company, the marketing has to be the oxygen of your company. If you don't have a culture that marketing's first, then you're not going to succeed at the level you want. And remember, I kind of resort back to the things I've already said. Love what you do so much that you have to get it out to the world. Then make marketing first. So many people will write a book, for example. I'm so passionate. I love this book. I put my heart and my soul. I spent a year and a half painstaking over this book, and then they get done and go, but now I just have to figure out how to sell it.
I feel that.
You should have been painstaking for a year and a half on how to sell the book and write the damn thing in a month. And that has to be everything in your company. Everything has to be about the marketing, the message, and how it gets out to the world. Have marketing stamina. If you send a direct mail piece and it doesn't work, planes fly. Just remember that, planes fly. It means your message didn't work or you mailed it to the wrong list. If you put an ad on Facebook and it doesn't work, that means you don't have the right lookalike audience and you didn't write the right message. Planes fly. Marketing works. It needs to be the culture and the foundation and the anchor, the cornerstone of your company.
Dean, again, I absolutely love it. Thank you so much for spending the time. Again, folks, we've been on with Dean Graziosi. He's a New York Times bestselling author, real estate entrepreneur, direct response icon. He's a mentor of mine, a friend of mine. He's been doing a lot of different things. He mentors young entrepreneurs. He's a motivational speaker. Probably his most important role is he's a father to his 2 children. If you'd like some more information about Dean Graziosi, you can go to deansbook.com. His latest book, Millionaire Success Habits, it's a great book, and just to reiterate what I've already said before, Dean's a real guy. He's doing real things, and it's simple, easy, and effective stuff that I think the average everyday person can understand. I mean, just real quick on his other books, when he talks about real estate, even myself as an attorney, I still think that real estate is, a lot of people think it's complicated. Dean has really done a great job of taking not only the real estate world, but the success principles and really kind of boiled it down into simple, easy, effective strategies and techniques that truly anybody can follow. So if you really want more out of life, again, I've learned a lot from this guy. I've applied some of the techniques that he's taught me personally in my life, and the stuff works. So again, Dean, thank you so much for being my guest. My name is Michael Alden, and we'll see you next time.
All right, guys, how many times have you had days where your underwear just doesn't fit or feel right? I've had many of those days, and it's not just a personal problem, it's everyone's problem. No one likes watching you readjust. Fortunately, Tommy John has the cure. Tommy John, the 21st century men's underwear brand that provides mind-blowing comfort. I know because I discovered them, and I wear them every day. Now imagine this. Super light, breathable fabrics combined with state-of-the-art design for a fit so perfect, it's almost like wearing nothing at all, and it's impossible to get a wedgie. They even have this patented patented horizontal quick draw fly that'll revolutionize the way you go to the bathroom. So for a truly unbelievable undergarment experience, visit TommyJohn.com and enter Alden, ALDEN, at checkout and receive 20% off your entire first order. That's ALDEN and receive 20% off your entire first order. Guys, all of their underwear is backed by their best pair you'll ever wear or its free guarantee, so you really have nothing to lose. Visit TommyJohn.com.